Welcome. Welcome to Perceptive Nature. I am Rosamaria Machado, Reverend Dr. Rosamaria Machado, and I'm so happy to be with you this day. And with me is your co host, which is Diane Marshall, and I'll have Diane introduce herself as well.
Hello, I'm Diane Marshall, and you already said that. And I am a spirit portrait artist and a professional commercial artist.
Wonderful. So today we have decided to begin a new endeavor, and our goal is to help shed some light on events in the world and things that are happening in the unseen and seen. So we have called the program Perceptive Nature because we believe that a lot of individuals have the ability to sense or feel or be aware of things that we might consider supernatural. Perhaps we might consider them uh, sensitivity awareness of environmental change or their atmosphere, even people that come around you every single day that you interact with. You might even get the sense of their vibe, as you might say, that some days they're up, some days they're down, and we're starting to learn and discover about what those qualities are because they are actually energetic footprints. And those same energetic footprints work for the work that Diane and I have done in the past, which we call the artist and the medium. Now, Diane is the artist and she utilizes the medium. The medium is the tools that are used to depict the pictures on the canvas or paper, as we would say, or even digital media if we were to use digital media. And what I come in as is an individual that is sensitive. So I listen to what the frequency and vibration that's coming through for people that are sharing their insight through the artist onto the canvas. Now, it's exactly the same frequency. So as Diane begins to depict the image, I'm tuning into the frequency. Now, it's a lot like dialing into a radio. You know, you remember when you in the old days you turned the little dial and the frequency would amplify, or you'd get all that static, and you thought static was noise. Well, static is not noise. There's a lot more going on in static than you realize, and it literally moves us to like an analogical state. So we're no longer in polarities. We're no longer in, the positive and negatives. We're just listening to what we would say is white noise. Now, mind you, we use white noise today in society. The science of white noise is in office settings in order to subdue the noise of people talking in an office. So you actually have white noise background playing throughout the building that you're really not noticing, but it is an effort to make the noise of the people less. Now, we all think that, oh, no, if I'm in an elevator, I get elevator music. But if you're in an office setting, you get this tiny little frequency of white noise. And as that white noise comes in, it actually has a pattern to it. It has color, it has the amplification of an image, and it literally starts to get assembled for you. So that's how I see it's a supernatural state. And I tune into the frequency, and the images begin to be assembled for me. Now, for the artist, it is the same manner. The artist starts to feel the frequency, and as they feel the frequency, their pencil or chalk or whatever medium that they are using to depict the image on the screen or the canvas is so that they can share with you the insight of the vibration that they're sensing. A lot of times, what comes through is the person. That may be a family, a relative, it could be a friend. Sometimes we've had incidences where there's literally a genetic imprint where we get an individual who is from another spectrum of that individual's reality. So it could have been an ancestor that you didn't even know you had. And all of a sudden they're coming through because why? You have a similar name, which gave a blueprint for that person. So, and I'll share with you, and it would be great. We'll interject these images perhaps in the midst of this video clip, so that you can see. So we had an individual who was named Margaret Brown, and then when we were doing the artist in the medium, Diane was painting a picture. As she was drawing this sketch of this individual, the person that came through was Molly Brown. So, and you all are familiar with Molly Brown. She is called the unsinkable Molly Brown, who was the woman that was on the Titanic. And when the Titanic was sinking, she was a very wealthy, not of aristocratic nature, but an individual who literally, built herself into success and prosperity. And she was a very significant figure in the Titanic event, as she offered of herself so much in that endeavor. So the picture that was painted for the woman who was Margaret Brown was a picture of Molly Brown. And we'll show you that image.
What was interesting about that is, as I was drawing, and first of all, people need to understand that I don't see who I'm drawing on the page. And Rosamaria Machado and I always pray before we do that. I think it's important that people understand that. So I just start drawing the eyes first, and then the face starts appearing, and I might have a feeling. In this case, I felt I needed to put a hat with a big flower on it. If you remember, Rosamaria, I said, oh, I feel this person's from back in the 1930s, 40s era. And somebody in the audience said, oh, yeah, that looks like that era. And you were picking up, by the way, for the audience, Rosamaria stands behind the person that's to my left as though I'm drawing their portrait. So she cannot see who I'm drawing whatsoever. She's just hooking into the frequency, if you will. And so she picks up on what she's picking up on, and I'm picking up what I'm picking up on. And it's one of the most fascinating art forms I've ever experienced.
Yeah. So what happens is, I don't even have to be in the same room. Okay. So, and what our intentions are is, to share some insight with you, is that, Diane could be on the opposite end of a stage, and I could be on the other side of the stage, and this frequency still exists. It has no distance. It has no parameters. It's unlimited, and it's accessible. So it's just a matter of, like I said, tuning in that little dial, that frequency, where you get a little bit of that white noise static, and then attuning to it. So you literally become, in Diane's case, a visionary. So through the medium of art, she literally starts to take the vision of the frequency and put it on paper.
And once again, I'd like to interject that I cannot see the person. There was a gentleman in the 40s that did this in England named Frank Lee, and he actually could see it on the page, and he said he traced it. I haven't been so lucky. I just allow my hand to, I have to relax. It's like I'm doodling. I have to allow my hand to move. And it's almost like automatic writing. However, I still have control. It's just I'm working with whoever's helping me, the other artist angels, I like to call them, that are helping me create this picture.
So when we're doing this artistic rendering, again, we're tapping into a vibration. For me, an individual who has been sensitive, had this supernatural gift, I like to call it, and it allows me to assemble an image, and then from the image, it allows me to see words. So sometimes I get ticker tapes of words. Sometimes I'm hearing them auditorily, as if they're being spoken, but they're not like whispered in my ear. No, it's nothing like that. It's almost like a telepathic connection that says, I have some information that's coming into me. It comes to a certain hemisphere of my brain, and as I come into that information, a conversation ensues and says, hi, my name is, everybody knows who I am, and I'm called the unsinkable Molly Brown. And I sit there and I go, oh, it's the unsinkable Molly Brown. She keeps saying she's unsinkable. And everybody's like, what? So as Diane continues to take the image and transfer that vibration onto paper, by the time we're done, we have a wonderful portrait of an individual who has come to be by the side of the person who is sitting next to Diane, getting this artistic rendition made. So at that point in time, we're thinking, okay, it's a portrait of someone. We don't really think it's that person. People are like, really, why would she show up for her? And we, in turn, in order to investigate, because we want to be evidential in the artistic rendering that is the medium of which Diane is presenting to us. So from an evidential perspective, we then go to our wonderful Google world, and we Google the information that had been presented to me from that supernatural state and that frequency, and we go and look for the unsinkable Molly Brown and see if we can see some images of her. And the irony of things is here we have an image that we have Molly Brown in her hat, similar clothing and facial structure, and a picture that was taken of her back in the day. And we compare it to the artistic rendering of which Diane has done through the artist and the medium, the tools of which she uses. And they're identical. There's slight little characteristic changes,
right,
but very, very close to the image that was presented in Google. And mind you, we didn't go to Google and search for a picture and put it right next to Diane and say, hey, Diane, will you draw this image that you're seeing right here, right now? So
in fact, as I was drawing, I knew the woman that was sitting in front of me as Peg. So it was throwing me off that Molly Brown would show up. You knew her name had been originally Margaret Brown. I did not have that information, nor did some of the people in the audience, if I remember correctly. And I was asking her, what's the correlation? She goes, oh, I was born as Margaret and they called me Molly. So perhaps that's, I figured why she came in, because the name was similar.
And it could have been an ancestor,
Could be.
So we really don't know why certain individuals come in with people. We've had other incidences where we've tapped into the frequency of an individual who is not deceased, who has not transitioned to the other side. And we've tuned into a frequency because the frequency has been significant enough to influence a young man's life and his future. So as, again, Diane is doing her wondrous work as an artist, she begins to sketch an image. And then the image, I'm attuning to this frequency. And I believe we're both attuning to the exact same frequency. We just interpret it differently. Okay. Diane interprets the frequency through an artistic rendering. And myself, I have an experience where, again, I am sensitive to vibration, color, light, word, sensitivity, where the frequency literally starts to create lettering at times. Sometimes it's a complete phrases. And that information, again, is telepathically, in my opinion, brought into my mind's eye. And I'm able to take that into regular words. At times, the words are so specific, it's almost as if I'm being told, say it exactly this way. And that's how the information presents itself. So in the case of this young man who was with us, the picture that was starting to be drawn, I was getting, well, this person's really important, and he's written a book, and he's saying you've got to really read this book. It's like so important for you to get this literary understanding, and you have to go out and get this book, and it's really important that you read it.
Oh, and
And
at that same time, I was receiving, someone has given you a book regarding this picture. That's all I was hearing in my telepathic receiving.
And then from there, the interesting part was with the young man that was with us. His mother was also present. And when we had the final image that was portrayed on the canvas, again, evidentially, we have evidential perspectives of information.
Mm-hmm.
The individual's name came across as Neil. His name is Neil. And we're like, okay. So as Diane is rendering the image, all of a sudden, by the time she's done, the image that she has painted is Neil Donald Walsh. And the young man's mother, who was in the audience, said, "Son, I just gave you that book that you needed to read."
It was called Conversations with God.
So when we saw the image, we again do our wonderful Google search, and we're looking for common ground for the image that was portrayed. And we share that image so that we can see that it's exactly the same person. Again, slight differentiations because of the way the vibration is coming through, but you can tell who it is. I mean, there is absolutely no question whatsoever as to who it is that's coming through.
And I didn't even know, I've never seen a picture of Neil Donald Walsh. I've never seen a picture of any of these people that I draw, but it was so uncanny how accurate it was.
So
we get so excited when we go on the internet. We're going, oh my gosh, look, it looks just like them.
And the information that's presented is to give insight to the person that is in front of us or beside us, and letting them know parts of their experience that they're going through, from the understanding of their self-growth and development, and how they're moving forward in life, and how this information could be pertinent to them and aid them through their current circumstance or situation.
Rosa,
any events that are occurring.
Let's tell them about, was it Mike?
Michael.
Michael sat down and I started to draw it looked like a Civil War general or somebody of a higher stature in the service. I don't know, maybe a general or captain or something. And he was wasn't stern, but he was very focused, with a very intense look on his eye, if you remember correctly. And you were picking up on, do you remember?
Yes, I do. I do remember.
Go ahead.
Yes. So in this case, we had another gentleman who had come forth. And as Diane began to draw, the image that was coming through in my mind's eye was I was seeing a battle. And it was a battle along a great water. And that this individual was a military commander, and that he had lost many, many men in this fight. And when he was speaking, the intensity of his vibration was very emotional. I have to tell you that there was a deep sense of sorrow, tremendous amount of grief in regards to what had happened and what he had experienced, this tremendous loss. But the greatest portion was that there was this expression of gratitude that was coming forth to this gentleman, Michael. And they were saying that we are so appreciative of Michael choosing to come forward to represent us all. And
at that point, I was crying, and Michael started crying because Rosamaria can't see his face, but I'm looking at his face, and his eyes filled up with tears, and a tear was coming down his face.
And the interesting part here is that, you know, those those parts of work is that Michael actually had several pictures of family portraits of those antique images where they were dressed in Civil War costumes. And that work that he was taking these pictures with his family, his wife and his children, and these Civil War images really tied back to what he had experienced in his past. And what was being shared with the gentleman that had been drawn on the canvas was that something that I had not been quite familiar with before, but the information that was coming through was there was an advocate that had been requested to come and return back into this world, this understanding, and to help the souls of the departed that had suffered such a tragic event. And as one representative who was able to overcome the challenges of life, and I always call them opportunities, but a lot of people call them challenges, but they were able to overcome these obstacles and move into a frequency of gratitude and appreciation and thankfulness, that that vibration of unconditional love would be felt by those who had a tragic end. And that sharing would bring forth a greater understanding and a greater capacity to love and heal not only the individual who is here living on this earth at this moment in time, but those who had departed or were deceased that had lived in another frequency and time. Now, for you to understand that, I'm going to take you into quantum science a little bit. So we have quantum science, and for us, we sit there and we think, okay, we have a beginning and we have an end. And we see it as a linear representation of this beginning and end, and all these experiences that we have through life until we get to this point of time where we are right now. But if we turn around and take that same concept and invert it so that we have a beginning and an end, and we're looking from this point in time of who we are through all these different levels of dimensional existences until this point of time where it was the past, that we perceive it as a past. In actuality, it's all of these events are collapsing into this moment. Okay, so we have this unraveling of many dimensional experiences and evolutional understandings coming into one point in time where we can help to heal not only ourselves, but we can help to heal the world. And a lot of times when we're doing this artist and medium work, we are working with the artistic rendering of Diane with the tools, the mediums that she's using, and my supernatural understanding, which is somehow the ability to tune the radio and listen to the story. Kind of like the old days when we used to sit down and listen to the Long Ranger on the radio and get really entrenched in Hi-Yo Silver and Rin Tin Tin and those type of shows, but I'm listening to it without having a radio present. And it's just attuning and becoming very, very familiar with vibration and frequency and color. And then we can have information that's shared from different dimensional experiences today, right now, this moment. And the same thing occurs whether or not we're doing artistic renderings, whether or not we're working with frequency for healing bodies, whatever it is we're choosing to use. Many people know me as an intuitive healer, and I have chosen to use the gifts that I have in that manner because it allows me to see, kind of like an X-ray machine, multiple levels and layers of our physical experience. And not only our physicality, but levels of dimensions that exist outside of ourselves. So that is a short little snippet of what the artist in the medium endeavor shares with the world, and what Diane and I have been doing on and off for the last several years. And we will be more than happy to include within this video those little images. I have one more image. There was a woman named Frances, whom we had a gentleman that was drawn, and this individual came through and we were sharing with her their insight, and I said, this person feels like he's a relation, he has some kind of connection to you, he was a very significant figure in the world in his time, and he's telling you that he's here with you in this trying time because there was a lot going on in the family and in their lives. And what happened is we gave the individual the picture, and they were like, well, I don't recognize him, I don't know who this is at all, but I'll go home and I will check it out. And what happened is, in that image, they were able to see who they are in greater clarity and who that person was. And I think I might be able to bring that one up right here, right now, because it allowed us to see a level of understanding. My desktop here with you for a second.
What's interesting is very often a picture has come, a drawing has come through, and I tell the person they will find a photograph of them later. And people have sent me photographs later and said, oh my gosh, look, it looks like I traced it. And
so here's the screenshot so that you can see. This is the gentleman that was drawn. And you can see the image. So this is the family member that was in the historical book. And this is the picture that was drawn of that family member. The significance here is the eyes, as you can see, that the image of the eyes, the goatee, the facial structure, a little bit more stern perhaps here, and perhaps even a slightly younger man than that's depicted in the image to the right. But when the person went home and looked at that image, they were seeing, wow, this is this family member. And Frances was like so ecstatic that that event had happened. So that's just one example. And we have several with Molly Brown and with Neil Donald Walsh, and even the commander that was with Michael, that we have found evidentially pictures of those people and the battles that they fought. So this is quite an intriguing endeavor that we've undertaken here, and we're so happy that we have this opportunity to share it with you.
And I think in the future, we would like to offer it to individuals if they would like to have a drawing done. We can bring you in on Zoom. We're just starting this program, but that's our intention, to be able to share these gifts that we have with the world.
So we're so happy that you had this opportunity to be with us today, that we had a chance to meet and greet. We didn't really talk too much about ourselves, but about the great work that does come through our talents and gifts. And we call these perceptive natures, or our perceptive nature. And it is what we have come to know that many, many people have. And it's a gift if you choose to accept it. It is a gift to each of us. So once again, I thank you for being with us. I send you much love and gratitude.
Thank you.
And may your day be blessed and your life be fruitful. Amen. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
God bless.